Welcome back to the webinar share live here from BINA. This week's topic is life lessons that we can learn from the Beis Hamikdash, from the temple. We find ourselves now in the most intense period of mourning during the year for the destruction of the temple, the 9 days, the saddest time of the Jewish year. However, besides for, of course, keeping the various laws of mourning, like not drinking wine or eating meat, etc., our sages have encouraged us to learn the laws of the building of the temple, as well as exploring the various spiritual meanings behind the various parts of the temple. And by doing so, that first of all is considered as if we are rebuilding the temple as we learn about it, and of course it hastens the actual rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash speedily in our days. Now, of course, we know that every person is considered a mini temple. It says in the verse, "Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham." You shall make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell amongst them. And the famous meaning of this is, as the commentaries point out, that it says, "V'shachanti b'seicham." I will dwell in them, although there is only one temple. And what it means is that every single person, every single Jew is a mini temple, a place where God dwells amongst them. And the way to enhance that connection and the way to bring God into our lives, we can learn from various aspects, various vessels, various parts of the temple, and derive some spiritual meaning and lessons, life lessons that we can learn from them. So let us start today with the most holy vessel in the Beis Hamikdash, in the temple, and that was the Aron HaKodesh, the holy ark, which was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Holy of Holies, the holiest place of the temple, where only the high priest was allowed to go in once a year on Yom Kippur. Inside the ark was the Luchos, the tablets, the 10 Commandments which Moses received from Hashem at Mount Sinai. The ark actually was made up of 3 boxes. The outer box was plated with gold, the middle was wood, and the inside one was once again gold. So we had gold, wood, and the most innermost box was gold. Gold represents purity, absolute purity. Wood, on the other hand, can be at times solid and firm. However, at times wood can be rotten and decay. So gold represents absolute purity and holiness. Wood represents something which can be sturdy, can be clean. However, sometimes it decays and rots. A Jew is made out of, so to speak, 3 layers. We have our core essence, our core identity, what makes us a Jew, the essence of our soul, the essential bond that we have with God. Then we have the way that is expressed in our feelings and our intellect and our feelings and emotions. The way we understand God, the way we feel, develop an emotional connection to God. And then we have the 3rd layer. The 3rd layer is our behavior, our thoughts, speech, and action, the way we practically live our lives as a Jew. We learn Torah, we keep God's commandments on a very practical level, in thought, speech, and action. So we have the most inner, deepest part of the Jew, the core identity. We have our intellect and our emotions, and then we have the most outer layer, the most external layer, our thought, speech, and action, our behavior. Now, just like the Aron, just like the ark, the most innermost, deepest levels of our soul, our core identity, what makes us a Jew, that essential bond between us and God, is pure gold. It can never be touched, it can never decay, it can never rot. It is always 100% pure and 100% whole, and can never be changed under any circumstance. That's the most inner box, the internal box, which was made out of pure gold. Then we have the middle box. The middle box is our intellect and our emotions. Although our core essence is always pure gold, although our core identity will always remain connected to God, however, our intellect, and for sure our emotions, the way we feel, is not always in sync with our core identity. Many times we feel tempted by the world around us. Not always do we feel like being nice to other people. Not always do we feel like acting the way the Torah and God demands us to do. So our emotions is a little bit wishy-washy, can sometimes be in sync, but sometimes not. Our emotions, our intellect is compared to wood. Because the truth is, although of course we have to do our best on working on our feelings, working on our emotions, improving the way we react and we feel to things, however, the truth is that most regular people cannot really transform always the way they feel. It is impossible to never feel angry. It is impossible to never feel upset at somebody else. It is impossible to never feel a temptation to transgress the commandments of the Torah. However, so it's like wood. Sometimes it could be firm and solid. Sometimes we are in sync. Sometimes we do feel like doing the right thing, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes it rots. Sometimes it decays. That's the middle box. However, what is expected from us is to make sure that our behavior, the practical things which we actually think and speak and do, that should always be in sync with our core identity. That is expected to be pure gold. Although not always our feelings are the right way, not always we feel like doing the right thing, not always we feel like doing good to other people, however, practically, whether we feel like it or not, our behavior is expected to be pure gold. We always are expected to be in control of what we do. So therefore, it comes out, just like the ark, the inner box was gold, the middle box was wood, and the most external box was also gold. So too the Jew is made out of the same, is fashioned the same way. Our core identity is always gold no matter what happens. Who we are, that we are a Jew, that we are connected to God, that's always there. Then we have the middle box, our intellect and emotions, is wood. Sometimes it is good, not always. And it's not always expected to be perfect. But the most outer box, the most external part of ourselves, our behavior, the way we actually act, that is expected to be pure gold, because we are human beings which are in control of the way we actually behave. And that's a very powerful lesson which we can learn from the holiest vessel of the temple, the Aron HaKodesh, the Holy Ark. Let's do today one more vessel, the menorah, the candelabra. The menorah was lit every single day in the temple, producing a very powerful light, representing a very spiritual light, bringing a spiritual light into the world. The menorah was made out of a solid block of gold. The way God commanded Moshe Rabbeinu, commanded Moses to create the menorah, was to take a solid block of gold and to carve out of that solid block of gold the various parts of the menorah, so it all comes out of one solid block of gold. There were 7 branches on the menorah, and on top of the 7 branches, a candle was lit out of oil. And the way it was that all the flames of the menorah would all face in one direction. They would all face what was called the western candle. Now, what exactly the western candle was, it is a dispute amongst the commentaries, but there was one candle called the Ner Ma'aravi, the western candle, and all the flames used to face in that direction. This concept at the menorah was crafted out of a block of gold, and there were 7 branches going in different directions. However, all the flames facing in the same direction has a tremendous, powerful lesson about Jewish unity. There are many different branches, so to speak, of Judaism. The most obvious, so to speak, split is we have Ashkenazim, we have Sephardim, which have various different customs. For example, Sephardim eat rice on Pesach, Ashkenazim do not eat rice on Pesach. Now's not the time to get into the various reasons, but that is the fact. And that's fine. It's fine that different groups, different parts, different sects of Judaism have their own customs, their own traditions, and that's perfectly fine. They're all part of one menorah. They're all part of one religion called Judaism. However, there are 2 criteria for that to work. Number 1, they all have to be crafted out of the same block of gold. All traditions in Yiddishkeit and Judaism have to be rooted in authentic sources, in authentic Judaism. They have to believe in the same core principles, in one God, in the fact that Torah is a God-given commandment on Mount Sinai to Moses. The famous 13 principles of faith, our faith in our sages of the Talmud, that everything they said is 100% true. All different traditions and customs within Judaism have to be rooted in that core identity, in that one block of gold, all rooted in the same truth. And then they branch out, and that's fine. Everyone has their customs and their traditions, various different small differences within the various parts, different traditions of Judaism. And also, besides for all coming from the same source, they all have to be facing the same direction, which means if I do eat rice on Pesach or I don't eat rice on Pesach, both have to be for the same reason, and that is to go face west. As our sages say, that God's presence is found in the west, meaning we all have to be facing God. We all have to have one direction and one reason why we do things, and that is to serve God and to come closer to God. So therefore, yes, there are 7 branches. And yes, those 7 branches could all come together on one menorah, but that only works if, number one, they all are coming from one block of gold, one tradition, one sacred belief in the oneness of God, in the truth of Torah, that it's God-given, in the truth of the words of our sages. And number 2, it also have to be facing in one direction, meaning that we all have to be going to the same common goal, and that is to serve God. When we have all those things, then we can truly be one, although we might have different customs, different traditions, but we're all serving one God, and we can come together as one nation with one common goal. Have a good day.